general thing to think about for ex-offenders is just being aware of what their offence actually is and whether it's relevant. Because I think organisations, obviously, by asking this question, you're obviously in favour of engaging ex-offenders. But I've seen a lot of resistance in general amongst voluntary involvement organisations about taking on ex-offenders. Now, a third of men by the age of 30 have some form of criminal record, so you're excluding such a large number of potential volunteers if you have a blanket, which I've had many people say, oh, we'd never take on a criminal. The things to bear in mind are, well, what was the nature of the offence? How serious was it? Is it relevant? How long ago was the offence or offences? The part of a pattern of offending? Under what circumstances were the offences carried out? It could be that someone picked up a long string of offences when they were homeless or addicted to drugs or alcohol and so on. So this kind of a list of questions really to see, well, is there a reason why that person's offence or history of offending should be a barrier? In most cases, it's not going to be. I mean, the things that we're obviously going to be more concerned about are engaging young people or vulnerable adults. If that's not an issue, then obviously you've got a much freer hand. I mean, the general issues would be making sure there's confidentiality, because that's a big issue for many people who have disclosed an offence, is that they'll be worried that other volunteers or staff or service users and so on will be told about this. So, in fact, you would have a duty of confidentiality to keep that absolutely confidential. There will be other issues which are going to come up with people who are ex-offenders, which can include things like literacy. Many people who have been in prison, there's a huge illiteracy rate. It's very large. So there'll be issues around literacy or previous skills or work experience. So it may mean if you are specifically targeting ex-offenders, you have to bear in mind that you may have to provide a little extra training or a little extra support in place there. There will also be things like confidence issues. People, again, may not have much experience of the workplace and understanding how work is carried out. Need a little more support there. I can't think of any other issues which, apart from the general things around having regular support supervision meetings, so there's a chance for people to monitor and raise issues and raise areas of concern. I'm not sure if there's much else I'd say specifically around ex-offenders.
I think one of the things to consider is in general the role designing the roles of the volunteers generally is very, very important, particularly when safeguarding in lots of different environments. I mean, it's something like what you're working in, cash handling is an obvious risk. So do you want all volunteers to have access always to all elements of the business? It doesn't need to be like that, so ring-fence parts of it and treat and appoint people accordingly. And did you want to add?
I just wanted to say that there's a lot of people who commit crimes who are never caught, so that's one thing. The other thing is I would encourage you, actually, depending on the sort of work you're doing, but certainly in social care, somebody who's got a criminal record that involves things like public order offences or drug offences, you may be working with a client group who are, committing those crimes, likely to commit those crimes themselves. And I'm thinking of my own background in youth homelessness, where certainly someone at the age of 30 said, I would never dream of behaving like that again. And they've got a lot to give because they understand, they've been there. So I think it's a bit parallel to, a lot of drug rehab projects who like to have ex-drug users, or mental health organisations who like to have people who are at a good place with their mental health difficulties. So I think it's a real equal opportunities issue. And I think it's one that people feel quite comfortable to say, oh no, we're not going to take them because they've got a criminal background, they've got a, they've got a record. But you've got to be careful. There is a law about this. We are trying to rehabilitate people, and so I think we have to be quite scrupulous about fairness and, of course, assessing the risk. But I think we also have to look at the positives. And I've actually used, in my time, I've actually used an armed robber in very controlled circumstances. Somebody who wrote to us from prison offering his services, and we thought, oh my God, it's an armed robber. But apparently had completely reformed, and we actually used him in a very limited way to give talks, discussion groups with young people about knife crime, about carrying guns, and about how it's not really a very good idea. And that's so much more powerful coming from somebody who said, I've spent several years in prison because of this. And you see the young people's faces go, so he did a lot more good than hours spent with,